Come on in, sit back and relax. Welcome to episode 173 of the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. This podcast features interviews, news, and analysis on the trends and best practices around wealth management technology. And this is our first new episode of 2023. Happy New Year to all of our listeners, and I hope you were able to enjoy some quality time with your family and friends during the holidays. Now, we did have an episode last week, but that was the part 2 of our best of 2022. So this is our first new episode of 2023. And this episode is part of our ongoing series focused on wealth tech startups. I had a terrific conversation with today's guests, Charles Almond from Tax Status and Jeff Schwantz from Morningstar. Morningstar has entered into a channel partnership agreement with Tax Status to sell their software to Morningstar customers. And this is significant. Morningstar doesn't do this with every company. So the fact they would choose as Tax Status means it must be something special. And I think it is after this interview. Their software enables advisors, with client approval, of course, to download all of their tax data from the IRS, which can save a tremendous amount of time that's normally required to manually key in data, scan in files, ask questions to the clients about their finances, and then hope they gave them the right answers and gave them the right documents. This circumvents the common problem where clients don't always know all of their information, such as all their investments, all the sources of income, their plan contributions, and so forth. Tax Status can provide a 360-degree view of a client's financial life, and it comes straight from the IRS. Now, Tax Status is not technically a startup since they have been in business for over 10 years, but this is their first foray into the wealth management space. Previously, all their work was in banking and lending. As you can imagine, having IRS data would be great for a bank looking to make a loan to someone. So certainly could be very useful to an advisor looking to understand a holistic view of a client's financial life. Now, this deal with Morningstar is a huge coup for Charles Almond and Tax Status because of the depth and breadth of Morningstar's relationship with the industry. They count over 100,000 advisors who either use their data or software products, which is a huge base to cross-sell into. Of course, a lot of the success of Tax Status and this partnership will hinge on the terms of the agreement, how the Morningstar sales team are compensated for selling Tax Status, and so on. We see a lot of this kind of strategy work, a lot of these issues with partnerships, and a lot of firms come to us, say we want a formal partnership, who should we work with? Now that we have this, identify the firm, how can we structure the partnership to provide the most value? I can't tell you over my experience in the industry how many partnerships I've seen be announced, big fanfare, press release, and then they just go nowhere because they're not supported properly. So if you are a wealth tech firm and you would like to engage into a partnership with another firm and you want help and advice, please go to EzraGroupLLC.com and fill out the form, get in touch with us. Our wealth tech experts can deliver a wide range of advice, including partnership analysis, competitive analysis, new product evaluations, market insights, and strategic advice, and a whole lot more. Now, every vendor needs these things to be successful, especially when entering into new markets, and you can get on the right track by going to EzraGroupLLC.com. A few quick housekeeping notes before we continue. To learn more about Tax Status software, go to taxstatus.com. And to learn more about Morningstar's data and software, go to Morningstar.com. Please subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Now, let's kick this thing off. I'm super excited to introduce our next guests, multiple guests on the podcast. We have two very special guests. First one is Jeff Schwantz, Global Head of Channel Partnerships for Morningstar. Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
And the man of the hour, Charles Almond, founder and CEO of Tax Status. What's up, Charles?
Hey, Craig.
Thanks for being here, guys. I'm excited by this. I'm really interested in this product. This is our, this month we're talking about startups, fintech startups. And while Tax Status isn't necessarily a startup, you're very new to the wealth management space. And I'm pretty excited to share this with everyone. Can you give us the 30-second elevator pitch for Tax Status?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Pleasure to be here. Appreciate it, Craig. Yeah, so Tax Status was created about 10 years ago. So they always say it's that overnight success, 10 years in the making. We, as an application architect, I was building a lot of back-end systems for the entertainment space and accounting and even the banking space, building underwriting systems. And I came across a co-founder who was a former CPA, and tax attorney, and he mentioned the pain that was involved in collecting tax information to help taxpayers. I offered to help out, and we started the company. And what we've done is we automated the collection of IRS data. And now back then, the whole point was to just gather everything we know about the taxpayer, and not just one or two transcripts, but you have to see the whole picture to help a taxpayer's situation. So for 10 years, we've been doing that. And 5 years ago, some banks saw the output of the system, and they said, oh my gosh, what is that? I need that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's just our thing. And let's take a look. And it was just more or less just a summary of everything the IRS knows about a business or an individual. And they just, their eyes lit up and they almost rolled over and they're like, wait, I need that, I need that, I need that. So literally 5 years ago, we started signing deals with banks to help them and their underwriters manage their risk and underwrite quicker by looking at the entire picture. So you can see everything. So it's been really fun since then. And we just over the last few months have been working with Morningstar, who've been a terrific partner because we didn't know anything about the wealth space. And clearly they know everything about the wealth space. So it's been a great relationship.
Yeah, I think you lucked out picking a partner to come into wealth with Morningstar. We worked with Morningstar for a while, and we love those guys. And it seems like the perfect fit. This is one of those products that you look at and you go, why didn't anyone think of this before?
Yeah, for real. No, it's absolutely true. Every time we demo, everyone says, oh my gosh, the first thing they ask us is how in the world is this possible? Right? They're just absolutely floored that this even exists. And then second question is, how can I get my hands on it? And I'll give you the secret, literally, Craig. The secret is this: taxpayer own the rights to their data. And so once you understand that and you get consent from the taxpayer, you can electronically reach in, grab the information on their behalf, and give them their insights into what's going on behind the scenes at the IRS. And here's the sweet spot: they can also at that time provide consent and give their wealth advisors the information as well, which automates the entire process of collecting tax data.
And data gathering is such an important part of the advisor client experience initially when they're first working with them, when they're a prospect. So if you can smooth that over, because think of I'm just thinking of all the paper or PDF files that a client has to bring to their advisor, especially ones that have kids or may have multiple businesses or maybe they're middle-aged. So you've kind of gathered all of this financial data and many different accounts, and you're saying you can bring it all from the IRS into one place. Can you give me a list of all the different things that an advisor can get from your system?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, especially the more successful the customer, the / client, then they've got more tax documents. They've got their individuals, they've got the spouse, they've got the dependents, they potentially have all their businesses, right? So to ask them when you sign a deal and say, hey, I'd love to, work with you, I'll help you out financially, then guess what? Go home and here's an assignment. Go grab all these tax returns. It's a nightmare. So what we've done is automated it literally to clicks and check boxes and button presses right on their mobile phone. And we gather all the consent and suck in all that data. So what does that data look like? It's everything. It's all the reported income for the individual in the business. So we can literally see everything the IRS sees, and the advisor then can be operating from the truth. Right? They can actually look at the de facto standard for what is all the reported income that the IRS knows about. And we're talking over 3,000 data points in there, everything from dependents to, my gosh, all the financial income, how you're making your income, all the businesses. And we're not pulling just the individuals, but the business data as well. So they've got for the first time ever, an automated look at all of the data within the IRS.
So Craig, let's drill into that a little bit if we can. So wage and income is one of the transcripts that is just rich in information for an advisor. So to Charles's point, we can go look at their employers. So think about what the advisors are doing when they're onboarding a client. They're spending a lot of time like, tell me about your employers. How much are you making right now? Are you contributing to a 401k? Are you contributing to a 403b or a 457 if you're in other sectors? Where are all of your brokerage accounts at? Are you receiving dividends, interest? What did you pay from a mortgage interest perspective? What's your principal balance look like? All of these things your advisors are going through today. All of that, by the way, is included in the more than 600 data elements that's just on the wage and income transcript alone. So think about the advisor. Like the problem that we've been at Morningstar focused on and solving is advisors do an amazing job, but they have to ask all of their clients all of these questions, especially now as most advisors are acting in a fiduciary way. So how can we help them gather the best information that allows that advisor to serve those clients in a fiduciary way? And by the way, on the other side of that, clients don't always understand the best information to provide to their advisors to help them, get towards their, their needs, their goals, their wishes, their wants. So you've got a way now to be able to level that playing field that, as we always say, like, how do we help advisors and clients get to the moments that matter faster? And you use those 600 data points that are in that wage and income transcript alone, that automates a lot of this information. So Craig, now we're now having a discussion around, hey, I can see that you've got a couple of employers, you and your spouse. Oh, I can see that you've got partnership income. I see you've got interest in, because you've got K1s that are there. Oh, I see you've got rental income. So you've got rents and royalties. Other clients you maybe see, well, I can see that you're actually taking Social Security benefits already. All of that information, you're not having to ask it and remember to ask it. It's there, and you're having a more validation discussion with your client than it is typically, hey, tell me about this, bring your shoebox, bring your tax returns, aggregate your accounts. That's the powerful, how powerful this data is, because it allows those advisors to get to those moments that matter faster with those clients.
So I got the title for this podcast. It's Let the IRS Automate Your Onboarding Process.
I like it.
So that's what you're doing, really, because normally you got to tell the client, get all this paperwork, get all the PDFs, get everything, but they got to find it. I mean, I'm pretty organized, and it's a pain for me to find all this stuff out and just to gather it all and then go through the form, whatever intake process the advisor has. Even if it's an automated, it's a very smooth online process, like some of Morningstar's systems do this. You're still clicking, going through screens, click, and manually entering data, or they're doing OCR on PDF files, which still you've got to get the PDFs to them. It takes some time to do that. There could be some mistakes. You may have forgotten a PDF. Your way, it's all one stop, and it's like a data vacuum cleaner. It's pulling everything in, and the client doesn't have to remember. So it removes. I hate the word. I said this before. I hate this buzzword. It removes friction from the client experience.
That's right. That's right. In fact, you can use your word pain, because it is painful when you got to go back. And if the more successful you are, you don't have these tax returns laying around anyway, right? They're back with the CPA. You got to hunt them down. You got to make the calls. So yeah, it's a nightmare. But here's the wild part. In today's industry, without this, right? You go through all that trouble to pull all this data in. And what have you done? You've captured a single snapshot in time. That's it. One snapshot in time. You got to do it again. How are you going to update your stuff? Right? So you got to go do it again next year, or heaven forbid, you're looking at the quarterlies and making sure that the estimated payments are being made. Okay, great. So you're doing it every, 3 months. Terrific. Guess what? With tax status, it's a continuous consent. So the consent that we gather with the taxpayer is not a one-time look. It's not a peek into a moment in time. It is a continuous consent that allows us to keep the system up to date. And if the system can check every day and make sure everything looks good, they can also keep you informed when things don't look good, right? So it's either way, everything's wonderful, and they can send you the quick notice that says, hey, everything's great. Or tax status can sit there and say, hey, we just saw something today that you need to know about. Please contact your client and let them know.
So that's a good point, Charles. So give me an example. What kind of things would come from your system on an ongoing basis that would help an advisor save the client money, make their relationship stronger? What kind of information are we getting here? What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness, it's so many. What's really cool about tax status is every advisor can lean in and select various topics that they care about, things they want to keep an eye on. The two most important things ever is they want to make sure that all of the compliance matters are happening. So they want to make sure that all the filings are going in. Oftentimes the advisors will tell us that, look, we've instructed our clients to make their quarterly payments, and they will literally call them up as a reminder and say, hey, I got on my calendar here, a little tickle. I'm supposed to call you and confirm that you made it. Yeah, sure. I think I did. Right? They don't have any proof that they're actually doing this. If they don't do it, they get fined and penalized, right? So the point here is that these alerts can literally come right back to the advisor to confirm all the actions that the taxpayer has been making. Yep, IRS got your quarterlies. Yep, IRS is happy. Yep, IRS got your annual return. Now, that's on the positive side. Let's say they're missing them. Let's say they miss them, and then all of a sudden if the IRS decides they don't like the annual return that you filed, a lot of people are unaware of what happens inside the IRS. And what happens is the minute you file your return, there's an automated audit that happens every time, right? And you can see this audit happening in the tax status as you look at all this information coming and going. You can literally see when the IRS is performing their automated audits, and you can see if there's any balance calculated. You can see any letters or warnings that go out. You can see the adjustments to balances due or refunds coming. If you're going to get a refund, great. Guess what? We can tell you when it's coming. Right. So all of that information is available in the IRS record, but nobody's seen it before. So having tax status with continuous consent protects all of the clients and the advisor and lets them do the job they were hired to do.
So Craig, let's bring it all together. So we've talked about just automating the onboarding process. Obviously, using that information in the financial planning process, hugely important. The best financial planners are asking their clients today for their tax returns. Why? Because they know how to read that information to use it in the financial planning process. As Charles just talked about, think about the next thing of providing valuable advice between an advisor and a client. We know, like, lots of advisors are taking on other peripheral services, being able to provide. So think about the ability to help a client understand what's going on. That use case Charles just described, things that are going on between them and the IRS. By the way, guess who's going to get that call if the payment wasn't made and we need to raise cash? Well, that advisor. Well, if you've brought the advisor into that experience, you've created yet another service that advisor just says, well, hey, this is why you're paying me 100 basis points or 110 basis points for managing your assets, because I'm doing your investment planning, I'm doing your financial planning, and I'm helping you, as Charles said, really on the protection side of mitigating, what is for most consumers their largest annual expense, which is taxes. So if I can help you avoid penalties on your largest expense, wow, that's a really valuable thing that, as an advisor, being able to justify the fees and the services that I'm offering, like, think about a new way to think about your practice and delivering value.
I know when I selected my current advisor because they also do our taxes. So they also have CPAs. So having this data would have saved me a lot of time onboarding. And if they could have this, and they would be every year, they would just get an update on whatever I've got automatically. It would flow into, like, they're using financial planning software, would flow into that. So you've already got all these integrations built. So will this already go into the top financial planning software, the top CRMs, and how does that work?
Yeah, I'd say this is the exciting part of why Charles and the team came to Morningstar, because we power the financial planning wealth. So the short answer is it does not yet exist. We can share with you, like, we have been engaging in the last 45 days since we've been working together, engaging those fintech firms, Craig, be it on the onboarding side, on the financial planning side. That's where we think, as more and more advisors want to do more financial planning, that's where our conversations with some of the fintech firms have started to go, like, wow, we have to reevaluate our roadmap, because this would provide a tremendous amount of value to the advisors that they serve and the enterprises that they serve. So the integrations don't yet exist. Those are the conversations that have started, and where we're heading towards, of, like, how do we help provide a better experience for the advisors in those enterprises that serve, or that those fintech firms serve.
Let me break into this interview for just a second to encourage everyone listening to attend the upcoming T3 Technology Conference. If you are in any way involved with advisor technology, the T3 Conference is a must-attend event. I've been going for over a decade, and I feel it's one of the best events in the industry because of the attendees and the content. I see executives from a wide variety of wealth management firms, from the smallest RIAs to the largest broker-dealers, as well as they have one of the largest and busiest vendor halls you'll find everywhere. Every vendor is going to be there, from the largest to the smallest ones, and everyone in between, every different category. If you look on the Kitz's Ezra map, almost every category is covered at T3. You'll find everything you need for your firm. The conference this year is in sunny Tampa, Florida, from March 13th to the 16th, and the venue is the Marriott Tampa Water Street. I'll be moderating a panel discussion on optimizing enterprise technology stacks, which you don't want to miss. You can register at T3 Conferences, that's a plural, t3conferences.com. And this is for anyone who's attending. If you are a buyer of technology, for example, an RIA aggregator, bank, broker dealer, others, we have a special promo code just for podcast listeners. It is Ezra100, EZRA100. It's promo code. Just enter it on the registration page, and you will receive $100 off if you're using either of two registrations, the financial advisor registration or the broker dealer executive registrations. This Ezra 100 will give you $100 off either of those. So hope to see you guys, everyone here listening, at the upcoming T3 conference.
Yeah, that's right. And what's really cool too is that tax status was built again because of my software background. It was all built API first, right? Which facilitates the interface with Morningstar. Morningstar has a tremendous API today, so bolting onto it and adding this service literally is a matter of days' effort to bolt this on, get it out there into the Morningstar customer hands is wildly beneficial. But for those companies that are smaller, for the wealth advisors that are not on big systems and they don't have a big crew, they can, or a development shop like some of the others, they can literally reach in and they can use the secure portal to start protecting their families right away. So whether they use the API or the UI, it's completely turnkey for them.
Yeah, Craig, one of the questions we often get from the enterprises is how do they unleash this? So as Charles just said, they are an API first organization. That's what we found so appealing. Morningstar Data Company, we understand other data companies. So what Charles and the team built was the ability for those largest enterprises to be able to take a little component and embed it in, if they're doing digital client discovery, like most of the financial planning, a lot of the enterprise wealth firms today, as you said, Craig, they're sending this information out and the client's gathering this information. So you take this little component to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client or household, you can spend the next 20, 30 minutes walking through this fact gathering process, or you can allow our firm consent to be able to go directly into the IRS application and gather this information automatically for you. And by the way, if you've applied for a mortgage or to refinance, this is the same thing that banks do to complete your loan profile. And the client walks through, as Charles just said, through those little components that the tax status team can embed in that digital client discovery, and it allows them to go through that consent. And then when received, deliver that information back. So that's what's kind of amazing around the integration is part of it's the authentication. Think about all the investment account aggregation that we all know. That a lot of the financial planning firms will do. You go out and you provide your credentials to Charles Schwab as an example, right? You're going out to the API and the investment account is coming directly in. Think of it, this is the same thing. Charles and the team have built an API directly into the IRS to gather the same information using the ways to gather the credentials and then deliver that information into the financial planning firm, to the onboarding firm, however they see fit to use it. But as we touched on kind of in the early part of the call, how do we onboard clients? How do we then use it for investment management? Obviously on the financial planning side, firms that with all the focus on direct indexing, one of the biggest benefits of direct indexing is to reduce your client's taxes. Well, how can you do that in a fiduciary way without having an understanding of what that client's their tax burden has been, not only last year, not just static, what maybe for the last 10 years, what has that done? Being able to use that information to manage their assets potentially differently in a more personalized way.
Yeah, this is one of those ideas where you just hit yourself and go, why didn't anyone think of this already? Right, so everything's being automated. Everything we have asset allocation or whether data aggregation that's pulling data from every financial institution. Why not pull data from the source, from the IRS, and make them work for you, in effect?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Our professional staff, and the way I think of it, it was almost like the perfect storm in that you had to have three things really to come up with this solution. The first is that you have to have the workflow system behind the scenes. You got to be able to support the entire taxpayer base, right? So that's where I step in because I can build those systems at scale. But you also need the IP. You need to know, how does the IRS work? What are the process and procedures internally? So what ends up happening is our professional staff are all former IRS. So what that means is that we are already charged with all of the, we think of it this way, we think of it as having the a monopoly on competence, because we are second to the IRS with respect to the knowledge, because everyone that comes out of there as they retire from all the different divisions, they could be in collections, they could be the revenue officers, in audit, exam. So the idea, they come to work for us, and then we bring with us not only credentials to help us access and manage all the taxpayer consent, but they can also provide insights into what the data means. Right? This is what is so key, is that although we're not creating all of these tools, we're not trying to have feature bloat, we're not trying to go over the top. We are an IRS data company. We're going to show you exactly what the IRS knows, and we're going to provide summaries because no one has the time to read 140 transcripts. So what we do is we take literally the information on the transcripts, compile it into a single, easy to consume report. And now everybody literally can use a tax status report. Those advisors can pull one sheet and get a high level big picture right now of where their clients stand with the IRS. And that, again, has never before been available. And that is sort of, again, it's a blend of the industry expertise, and the technology to automate it all, that really makes it all happen.
So Jeff, can you talk about which parts of Morningstar's tech are being integrated with tax status first, and what will your clients see?
Yeah, the thing that we've been, again, the fact that we power most wealth firms today, they are using Morningstar data, they're using our APIs to power a large part of their ecosystem today. So our first step is actually taking those APIs and going to those same large enterprise clients using the APIs that Charles has described here. So we're actually focusing on the outbound, powering those other applications. Financial planning, we spent a lot of time with most of the financial planning platforms here, because that is a huge use case. More firms, when we started to do product market fit, we were thinking about building something like this on our own a couple of years ago, Craig, here at Morningstar. You may remember we built the software that an advisor can take a picture of their brokerage statement and immediately digitize that. So that was really the training ground for us. And that's how we do a lot of our data collection today. We are a data gathering process. So when we were out there talking to organizations, the largest that were doing the most financial planning, they said, hey, you know what would be really great? I said, I know what your question is going to be. Mm-hmm. Can we turn this towards the tax documents? Because the best advisors that are doing financial planning really, really well, that's what they're going at. So we were looking at that, but we quickly learned all the things that Charles described. It's a point in time. And that's some of the challenges, limitations of some, let alone the OCR errors that exist. So when we were introduced to Charles and the tax status team, needless to say, like, we diverted our efforts elsewhere to figure out how do we enable our wealth firms that are using our APIs and our data today. How do we help supplement that using the tax data? Back to how do we help advisors serve investors better? There's not many more examples better than this that really allows advisors to serve investors better.
Yeah, not just serve them better, but save them time and gather all the information, have everything, rather than say, oh, you forgot this and you forgot that. Oh, don't, it just makes the process so much simpler, and it's going to make clients want to provide this because they don't have to do anything to do it.
Yeah, so let's go there for just a second. So let's put it into real numbers, and let's say in general, to do a really nice financial plan, it's taking somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. Well, what's the value of that time? Well, let's break it down. You have the advisor value and you have the client value. So let's assume that your advisor is making $100,000 a year. So what's their hourly rate, right? It's around $50 an hour. Well, let's say that same client, their household income is around $100,000. Well, that's also $50 an hour. So if we just say, like, that's $100 an hour between the two parties right there, and it's taking somewhere between 6 and 8 hours to do that, that's $800 worth of combined value to create a financial plan. Mm-hmm. So if you can enable a solution that allows you to get to those moments that matter faster without that amount of investment in time, and by the way, probably more precision and more, focusing on those things that matter, and a fraction of that time, think about the return on investment. How do we help advisors potentially serve more clients, right? How do we help them grow their practices? Well, part of that is a redirection of where they're having to spend their time today. to gather this information, to act as a fiduciary, to do a financial plan. If you can make that a non-issue, wow. I mean, tremendous value everywhere in the ecosystem.
And just as importantly is the data accuracy, as you mentioned, that the client doesn't have to get the latest of everything. Oh, you got the right form, but it's not the latest one. Or you got, where's your 2021 tax return? This is only 2020. Oh, I put them in a different place. Or all the other forms or account statements that they have to drag up, trying to get the latest one. Now they're going to have it. But also, what about history? How far back does this go, and how useful is that?
Yeah, that's what's really terrific, is that the consent that we gather is dynamic. And what I mean by that is the scope can be dynamic. The scope, we can go back anywhere from 2 years all the way back to 35 years. We can go back as far as the advisor wants to go, and as far as ultimately the taxpayer wants to permit. So what we'll do is we find that usually the advisors stick around 10 years because that's often the statute of limitations on any liabilities that have come up over that last decade. However, the IRS will always allow us to go up to 3 years in the future on that initial consent, which means that we only have to ask for consent every 3 years to keep the consent active, ongoing, and live to provide the real-time updates of the information. So completely dynamic. And again, you don't have to worry about the Q&A, and you don't have to worry about making sure you don't miss anything, because you always get it all. And you get, with respect to accuracy, you're getting it directly from the IRS systems digitally. There is no OCR. They don't hand us PDFs and then we magically use OCR in the background. There's none of that. We literally deliver everything in the latest JSON format to all of our partners through the API.
So Jeff, now that you've partnered with Tax Status and seeing their capabilities and how really incredible this is there anything changing with the other partners that Morningstar works with?
Yeah, I'd say our clients, again, our clients are the enterprise wealth firms and the fintech wealth firms that serve those organizations and advisors. And the short answer is yes. Very akin to what the first time that we saw it, and when we understood the capabilities and we started to do our due diligence, it was like, wow. And that's the reaction we've seen from these firms, is that we can't unsee this capability. And it's a rethink of the roadmaps that they had planned for the first half of the year. This general theme that we've heard, and I'd say it's a little over a dozen firms, right? So enough couple of data points to start to suggest a trend, but it's, wow, this is pretty amazing. We need to go rethink our roadmap, because this would provide tremendous value to the advisors that we serve and the enterprise wealth management firms that they're likely affiliated with. So it's kind of I can't unsee this capability. We need to think differently, because, and by this would power a number of other initiatives that most organizations have. We touched on earlier around direct indexing, personalization. I mean, all of these things fit, all of this data fits into that, those different use cases in one way or another. And that's why the firms that we've engaged with are starting to just think differently about what they had planned for the first half, and how do they start to engage and bring this data in, start to apply it to different use cases, because they see the value as well.
This is great stuff. I wish we had more time to talk about it, but we've run out. So Charles, please tell the listeners where they can learn more information about Tax Status.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Craig. Yeah, just anyone go reach out to taxstatus.com. It's one word, taxstatus.com.
Awesome. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Craig.
Take good care.
Hey, it's Craig again. And here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. Tax Status is an automated collecting service of IRS data. It delivers a comprehensive report to the advisor on everything the IRS knows about their clients, back for up to 10 years. That includes over 3,000 data points, which can be used to speed up the new account opening process, data gathering, onboarding, financial planning. The clients don't have to bring their tax returns or other files. Everything just gets downloaded automatically. And they get up to 10 years of history, which is a sweet spot due to the terms of service. And it also can fill out other applications. It's not a one-time data pull. There's an ongoing consent for up to 3 years. So you're getting a constant update of data on your clients, including new addresses, new employers, new dependents, and so on. And finally, this seems to me like something that advisors should sign up for, or at least take a look at it. Since they're new in the industry, no one else really has it. And it seems like something that's going to become ubiquitous. Everyone's going to want something like this once it's available. So if you can get into it now, it could be a differentiated service offering for you to prospective clients. And that's a wrap. You made it to the end of another episode of the WealthTech Today podcast. Thanks for listening. And before I go, please go to our website, EzraGroupLLC.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, analysis, updates, and links. You will not be disappointed. Thanks for listening, and talk to you all again next time.